sounds like season 3 stuff. So
Yeah. Yes.
is it
Is it?
Tin Hat time?
Tin Hat time.
Tin Hat time. Tin Hat time.
Hello. Welcome to
Hello,
Tin
everyone.
Hat time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you want to...
I'm Megan with
Jesus
Tin Hat
Christ.
Time. And that's Hannah.
Yeah, hi, I'm Hannah. That over there is Megan, and welcome to our 3rd episode of Tin Hat Time. I'm honestly pretty impressed that we managed to put up one, let alone continue to do this now for the 3rd time. So, you know, we're experts. We're incredible.
Yeah, we are incredible people, but hopefully people still will watch this one. So
yeah, hopefully, like, watch and comment, like, subscribe, do all the stuff. We'll say it again at the end.
Send us emails, right? We'll talk about it at the end, but send us your stories and shit. So
we would love to hear from you. If you're watching and you're enjoying, let us know. Because we're not going to stop. You've created a monster, because
you've created a monster.
Nobody wants to see monster no more. They want to say I'm chocolate. I'm really good at this. Okay. Anyway, so
what are we talking about this week?
What are we talking about this week, Megan? Well, I've decided I'm going to drive this boat today right into some rocky shoals. So we're covering a mystery that I have loved for a long time, the mystery of the Mary Celeste.
Ooh. I think I do that after everyone. Every time.
Oh, fuck. So the Mary Celeste is, like I said, one of my favorite mysteries. It is a maritime mystery, which I extra love because, as I know you know, Megan, but some of our viewers may not know, I was a sailor in the United States Coast Guard. So boat stuff is always fascinating to me. And if I get too boaty about it, just let me know and I'll try to reel it back in for you landlubbers.
Yeah, I probably just won't know what you're talking about.
So. That's usual for you, though, if we're being real. You've mastered that nod.
Yes.
So the Mary Celeste was a brigantine vessel, an American merchant brigantine vessel that was found adrift under partial sail with no crew members on board. The captain, the crew, captain's wife, and infant daughter, all gone. So on the ship, missing was the life raft, as well as the sextant, the chronometer, which is not just a fancy name for clock. It helps you keep time at sea. And the ship's registry papers that would like say I'm an American, like this, she's an American vessel under the command of Captain Briggs, blah, blah, blah. So captain, crew, the captain's family, and some navigational equipment, as well as the life raft or lifeboat, were all gone. Other than that, the ship was completely intact. They had 6 months supply of food and water still in the hold. Their cargo of denatured alcohol was mostly untouched. There was no significant damage to the ship other than the ship's log was still on board, and like the last date was an entry 10 days before she was found that basically said some innocuous ass shit like 7 miles off the coast of the Azores. Is it Azores or is it?
Oh, I don't know. All the podcasts I listen to, I don't think they actually mention the island names. I don't know.
They said an island chain off the coast of Portugal, which is the Azores/Azores.
It's their stopping point. So they were supposed to already be in Italy because they were headed to Genoa, Italy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because they left out of New York and we're heading to Italy. But so let's talk a little bit about the backstory of like what happened before this ship was found just adrift and abandoned, which is weird.
Very strange.
Yeah. So let's talk about that ill-fated voyage. So Captain Briggs was the captain of this vessel. He was an 18-year veteran seaman, so he had been out on the sea his whole life. He knew what he was about out there, and he was a well-respected man. He was considered to be quite religious. He very rarely drank, which as a sailor is like, okay. But at least then you can trust him to like not be a dipshit on the boat.
Yeah, everything that I read about his character said that he was a well-respected, level-headed dude. Like nobody thought that he was a whack job, basically.
Right. And he wasn't like a shady character. He wasn't somebody who had like a bad record. Right. And he didn't have like a record for mistreating his crew. He, that kind of stuff. And so since he decided to bring his wife and his infant daughter aboard, they left their 7-year-old son behind because he was in the middle of school. They didn't want to break up his schooling. They're like, you stay here and then go kick it with your auntie, and then we'll be back in like 8 months and it'll be fun for us. And then you just have to stay in a shitty boarding school.
Yeah.
Because of 1872. So it was like reported that Captain Briggs, since he knew his wife and daughter were going to be on board, was extra careful in choosing the crew, picked sailors that he knew that had a good reputation, probably sailors that he'd sailed with before, because this was his first time. Yeah, right? Nobody who's gonna be like, ooh,
let's murder your family.
Let's murder your family and steal this cargo. And
no criminals, right?
Right. Which is, I'm just gonna go ahead and say, gonna be hard to find.
Yeah, especially like what you can do a background check on them, you know? Like
I've never heard of a sailor getting his back or her background checked.
Well, like that system didn't exist in the 1800s, so it was
no shit. So you just had to kind of go off of what people said. So in that case, there could have been shady characters who were good at not seeming like shady characters who were on board, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. Right? Like Ted Bundy's ancestors or something.
Yeah, but they all disappeared, so then we wouldn't have had Ted Bundy.
Yes, but there was people who survived, right? So like they had families and stuff back home. So they
like their wives and children and shit. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. People can procreate before they vanish at sea, I guess.
Yes.
But okay, so Captain Briggs, his wife, infant daughter, and a crew of 7 left New York on November 7th, 1872. In a letter to his mother dated November 3rd, Briggs says, the vessel is in beautiful trim, and I hope we shall have a fine passage, which was ironic foreshadowing.
What's that voice that you're doing?
Oh, that was my Captain Briggs voice. Says, man of the sea. Also, maybe a Muppet.
I was just about to say, it's got real Kermit the Frog vibes.
Well, yeah, because Kermit's my favorite captain.
I can't do a Kermit the Frog.
I can't, now that you've put me on the spot, I can't do it, but I can, I do a pretty good Miss Piggy. Just like her, like angry I make angry Miss Piggy sounds sometimes, and I'm upset. That's neither here nor there. Okay.
You owning your gloves, like the long.
Oh, I used to wear opera gloves to high school every day, like almost every day, elbow length opera gloves. I had a lot of friends, and like dudes were just like, who is she?
I would say that you were that kid, but I was homeschooled, so I don't really have any room to talk. So
no, you were all of the kids because you were educated.
Also that kid, so
in your living room.
And now that's why we have a conspiracy podcast. So
right. Yeah. But so it is ironic foreshadowing that he, hopes to have a fine passage. This was, like I was saying, his first trip as captain of the Mary Celeste. The Mary Celeste had been bought and sold several times before. This was not the ship itself's maiden voyage, but it was her maiden voyage under the name Mary Celeste and under the captainage of or whatever patronage is who would have been paying for it. Whatever. It was Briggs' first trip, and it was Mary Celeste's first trip. So he wasn't sure what was going to happen. He'd never sailed that vessel before. Each ship has her own feel to it, you know? That was the last that anyone ever heard from them officially. There are some stories about that Captain Briggs and the captain of the Dea Gracia, who's the ship who finds them later. Spoiler, I think we already talked about that. And Captain Morehouse of the Dea Gracia had dinner together the night before, but that's just speculation from Morehouse's widow, like 51 years afterwards. It's likely that the two captains knew each other. They were in the same line of business.
Ran in the same circles.
They ran in the same circles, but there's no proof that they were like tight buddies. And it's known that like the Mary Celeste set off the first week of November. The De Gracia was going to follow about a week later, following the exact same path, whatever route. So when
they're about 2 weeks behind.
Yeah, so when the De Gracia sees the Mary Celeste just floating out in the water, adrift, moving oddly with an odd set to the sails for like the weather that was happening, they got pretty, excuse me, hiccups. I hope that was a quiet burp. Oh, thank Christ.
Nobody would have known if you didn't say anything.
Cool.
You're welcome.
So she didn't respond to the hailing. Captain Morehouse is like, that's weird. Briggs shouldn't be here right now. What's going on? So he sends a couple of his guys over in the rowboat to go aboard the Mary Celeste and like see what's happening. And they come back like, Captain, you got to get your ass over here. Like shit's gone wonk. So when Morehouse and the crew of the De Gracia board the Mary Celeste, they find a makeshift sounding rod. On the deck, they find a pump that's in disarray. They find the noted absence, like I said before, of the rowboat, sextant, chronometer, other navigational tools, the ship's registry, like all that shit's gone. It seems odd to me that they left behind the captain's log, because that's a weird thing to leave behind, unless, so there's like some theories that Captain Briggs' chronometer was not working correctly. And so he thought that he was much closer to the Azores. And that's what I'm sticking with, you guys, Azores. That he was closer to the Azores than he thought he was, and would have thought that it would have been more easily reached by the rowboat Madoodle. And so he figured they might be able to get back to their ship.
Yeah.
So he didn't take everything,
or at least to land, right? Like
to land, or to kind of hang back and see what was going on. So the sounding rod that was found on the ship's deck was not a true sounding rod, because a sounding rod is going to have like something heavy on the bottom, like tied with like probably in those days line that was like knotted off at specific areas, so you could tell how deep the water in the bilges were.
Mm-hmm.
And like while you're underway, a ship can take on a fairly decent amount of water and still be buoyant and still be seaworthy. Yeah. Even like in the Coast Guard ships that I was on, which are steel ships, like when you're doing soundings while you're at sea, there's more water in the bilges than there is when you're at port. Yeah. For like just shit ton of different reasons.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? You're literally on a body of water.
Danger area for sure. And so there is some speculation that perhaps the proper sounding rod had broken or like gotten lost, swept over, or something like that. And so this makeshift one was put into play. And that with there being 3.5 feet of water in the bilge, as well as like water in between decks, that perhaps they got an incorrect sounding reading off of this makeshift, just a line and rod or line and like a ball of iron that was dropped down. Mm-hmm. And thought that the ship had taken on much more water than it had. Yeah. And that was why they abandoned ship. That's one thought for it. And that's really all just speculation based off of the makeshift sounding rod being found on the deck and the pump being found in disarray, that maybe they were like,
But if that was the case, would they still have time to grab the captain's log before getting off?
Or make a notation in it, you would think. Because as a seaman, you would make a fucking notation in that log every hour, whether there is nothing happening or no matter what. Like, good God, the things they used to put down is like 0700 saw a bird.
Yeah. I mean, pretty dull.
My computer is fussing at me. I didn't plug in. There we go. Okay, I'm back. The proper break.
So potentially they took on too much water.
And it's also speculated that the captain, since his wife and child were on board, was acting a little bit with a lot more precaution than perhaps he would have normally, also not being familiar with the ship.
Yeah.
While like, 18 years of experience at sea teaches you to be aware of any and everything, and like to not take any situation as what happened last time that happened this time, because
Yeah.
every situation is different. So that's interesting to me, that there was a makeshift sounding rod and like a disarray pump, that maybe they thought, shit, we're taking on too much water, we got to get off this boat and like hang back and see what happens, and then maybe got separated from the ship
Yeah.
and were, eaten by the sea, which is just the most terrifying thought. But there was also no evidence that any food had been taken. Like I said, there was 6 months supply of food and water that were still on board. So there was never there was no obvious explanation, no obvious reason. The last thing in the log was at 8 a.m., 6 miles off the coast of Santa Maria or some shit. Yeah, so they don't, there is no evidence, there was nothing on the ship that like was like the smoking gun of this is what happened and why.
Yeah.
And that log entry was dated 10 days prior to it being found adrift. So yeah, the crew of the Del Gracia towed her up and brought her into Gibraltar as salvage, because like I said, the cargo of denatured alcohol was mostly intact. Yeah. So there are a few of the other things that were odd about the ship, but not necessarily a big flying flag of this is what happened, were that some of the barrels of the denatured alcohol were empty, but like you don't drink denatured alcohol. You don't. So it's not like the ship's crew got in there, got drunk, and then shoved everybody off the ship, which that's not.
Well, the stuff that I read was, so it was 9 barrels that were empty, and it was like all together it was like 1,700 barrels or something, like something
1,701.
Yeah, and so most of those barrels were made out of white oak, and then the empty ones were made out of red oak, which is a more porous wood.
So it could have seeped through, and then there could have been fumes, but they wouldn't have been combustible, probably. Like denatured alcohol is extremely flammable, and it has a very strong smell. As a little non-rate seaman kid on the Polar Sea,
which is a
I
ship.
remember what? The Polar Sea was the name of my ship.
Yeah.
I would have thought that was obvious, but I don't know what people know.
The Polar Sea sounds like you were on a sea, like,
on the sea. No, I was in port in Seattle on board a ship named the Polar Sea, and I was put in charge of the bosun's hold, or the beehole. Yeah.
You were the beehole.
Yeah, like riding the beehole. Hold, behold.
You were a beehole expert.
I was a beehole seaman for sure. That's exactly what I was. But I would like have to reorganize like all the shit down there. Yeah, that cackle that you made was appropriate.
No, you're the beehole sailor and you organize shit.
Oh yeah. No, I thought you meant the laughable idea that I would be put in charge of organizing anything.
But I mean, that is also laughable, but
it was a super sexist move by dudes who were just like, that's a woman, bet she can organize some stuff. Yeah, and I was like, yeah, I'll organize it, but no one will be able to find shit but me. And then I became like the weird Charlie with the Pepe Sylvia of like, oh, the denatured alcohol is here. Do you need pneumatic hoses? They're arranged in an order no one can understand. But yeah, then there were times when I got stuck in the paint locker, and I'd be like, using the denatured, dude, the hatch got stuck. And like, so I was just like, fuck it, I guess I'll just finish this job in here with no ventilation. And I'm just like cleaning like paintbrushes out and denatured alcohol, slowly going mad. And then like one of the other seamen like opened the door or the hatch and came in and was like, what the fuck are you doing in here, Austin? And I was like, hey, I'm organizing paint. And then I get out.
Just like your hair, just like sticking out all crazy. Looking like Danny DeVito, like just...
Organizing.
I'm the trash man.
And they're getting some fresh air on the deck now. Get the fuck out of here. Like, yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Oh.
But yeah, so denatured alcohol has a smell to it. And I would think that if you suddenly smelled a bunch of it, you'd be like, fuck me, this shit's gonna blow.
Yeah.
Because it seems to, we'll get into the boring rational explanations at the end. I think that we have covered kind of like the hard facts that we know about like the ship's condition in which she was found.
Are you saying we should speculate?
I think it's speculation time.
Yeah, let's
It's
speculate.
time for some wild speculation. Oh yeah.
What could happen or what could have happened.
Yeah. So I think that do you want to cover boring mundane first, or do you want to save the boring bullshit to the end and get to the fun stuff?
I think for me, right, the interesting, boring explanation is that the people who found the ship, right, wanted salvage money because you could get salvage money, right? So like you could bring in someone else's ship that nobody was on or people were dead or whatever. Yeah. You could bring in a ship and get the insurance money for it. And so they could have gotten like 43,000 in 1872, which is what, like, it's like double that now, like for
it's
like
something insane.
Like it's like 80 to 90,000.
Yeah, it was something like that. I think I read something that said like $100,000.
Yeah. What? And so, you know, that's a decent chunk of money that they could have gotten for that boat. And but so it's not unreasonable. Sailors are, you know, back then you just, like we already talked about earlier, you never know.
As a sailor, I'm okay with the reputation that we have as shady drunks. Yeah. Because it's well earned.
So, I mean, like, as dark it is as it is, like
hashtag not all seamen, but you know, most.
But there's so many jokes I want to make.
I know, I'm just like watching your fucking head explode over there.
Some should just be swallowed. But
some people should have just been swallowed.
But no, like that's the darkest explanation, is that like the people who found it could have just thrown these people overboard, and then which is dark because there was a 2-year-old that, like, the captain's daughter was 2, and so like that's like hands down. They were just like, bye bitch, into the sea. Either that or they just like kicked him the fuck off the boat or whatever.
Yeah. See,
so, like, that's the darkest. They did a trial and stuff with it, and they were like, this is super sketch, and so they only gave him like 10% of the insurance money,
which to me is very suspect.
Yeah,
that they didn't feel comfortable paying out the full amount because they were like, okay, we can't prove that you fuckers didn't murder the crew of the Mary Celeste, but we also can't prove that you didn't.
Yeah.
So but like
money,
there was, like, I will say that like since the ship's log was there, it would have been entered into evidence, and there was not like, and I really tried to read some of that.
It's dope.
The trial shit. God damn it.
It's 1872. It's probably a lot of like
1872 trial is like, just give me Law and Order sea time. Done. But I feel like if that was what had happened, then in the captain's log there would have been pages missing.
Yeah.
Or more entries.
Well, I mean, unless they didn't have time, right? Or they thought that, you know.
No, what I'm saying is that since they found her, it's recorded in the log of the Del Gracia the day that they found the Mary Celeste. And on the Mary Celeste, which was December 5th, sea time, 1872. The last log on the Mary Celeste was from November 24th at 8 in the morning, 1872. So it was like.
Yeah, but like, couldn't you just fake that?
That's what I'm saying. There was no evidence that anything had been removed from the log, that pages were torn out, that I'm like, what are you going to do? Sit back and rewrite an entire fucking captain's log? No, you're not going to do that.
Well, I mean, unless it was like the intention, unless it was like premeditated, right? Like they knew they were going to do that. And so they intentionally wrote, you know, oh, saw a bird at 7 a.m.
Like cloud cover.
You know, and like just
I made a bad choice. Maybe the college debt would have been worth it, but I'm glad that I don't have college debt, honestly.
Lucky you.
Yeah, sucks to
But,
suck.
you know, you didn't get
didn't
murdered
buy
by the
into a
US
scam.
government. So,
Yeah.
you know, at least you made it out. That's speculation for another time.
Right. But okay, so what I think for me, the darkest Bummersville concept of it, and this is like, but we're gonna get into like our more fun explanations here, but like the darkest mundane, like true life thing that could have happened was that the captain thought something went wrong with the ship, was not using his rational captain brain because of the presence of his wife and child, and was using his emotional father husband brain, and said, everybody get the fuck off here, get off, get off, get off, get off, get off. We're gonna tie up to the ship real quick, and we're just gonna make sure that like we'll float back, because like if they had a line that was long enough, you know, you can float off a distance and like kind of stay inside of the ship and make sure that if she gonna blow, you're not on it.
Yeah.
And like with the idea of like, okay, if she doesn't blow, we'll just go get back, which is, and then there was evidence of a sea quake happening around that time period, which means that a foreshock could have really fucked up the sea. There's always the possibility of a sea spout, which those come up the fuck up out of nowhere.
What's a sea spout?
A sea spout is like a water tornado.
Oh, like the Kraken, like just.
We'll find some pictures of it to post with this episode. But yeah, it's just I've seen water spouts before. There's one time when we were at the beach in North Carolina, and we were just like hanging out, and like well off in the distance there was a bunch of water spouts like moving their way towards the land, and my grandfather snapped a picture of it, and that ended up in the Charlotte Daily Gazette.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So is it like literally a sea tornado?
Yeah, it's a sea twister.
Okay.
Sea spouts, it's like in the desert, they call them dust devils.
Yeah, okay.
So that sort of thing. So it's like, yeah, a water spout. And they can kind of come up out of nowhere and, you know, wreak some real damage, especially to wooden ships and especially to like what a life raft out there. Oh, fuck no.
Yeah.
That'd be real bad. But the idea to me of being on a life raft behind a seaworthy vessel and watching yourself drift further and further and further away without any way, like rowing and rowing, and you're just not getting any closer. And the captain makes the decision like, okay, well, we need to start rowing this way because there's land. And with that faulty chronometer, there was no land. Yeah. So you just start rowing, and you didn't bring food and water with you because you thought you were coming right back to the ship. And then away you drift. And then there's that whole concept of like what happened while they were on that life raft. You know, how many sticks were pulled? Did they eat the baby? What happened? All of them died regardless, but like, did they eat that baby?
You never know.
I literally sat up last night concerned and just like putting myself in that life raft as Captain Briggs' wife with her baby and like her husband and these people here, and just like what would I have done?
Yeah. Like, oh my God.
Watching ourselves drift away. We have no food, we have no water, my baby's unresponsive, like what's going on? And then that's when the Kraken shows up.
What's that one movie where like they're like stranded in the water with sharks?
Deep Blue Sea?
I don't remember what it's called, but they're like stranded, like literally in the water.
Yeah, because
like 7 hours with sharks.
Buddy, that shit's based off a true story.
Oh, I know. That's why it's like extra dark.
It's deeply upsetting. And I watched that movie and then went to Australia to go scuba diving. I mean, that's not why I went to Australia. I was in the Coast Guard, but then they were like, do you want to go scuba diving on the Great Barrier Reef? And I was like, you only get one shot to do that, probably because I'm poor.
So I like swimming in the ocean is like really a lot scarier than like people think of. Like, you know,
I've had swim calls in the middle of the fucking ocean and jumped in and was just like, oh, this is fun. And then saw that there was a dude up in the crow's nest with an AK, and I was like, what's he doing up there? And then it clicked, and like, he's not gonna shoot the shark. That's not gonna kill the shark. He's there to shoot you if the shark gets you. So you don't have to be eaten alive by a shark. And then I got out of the water, and then I just did Steel Beach for the rest of the day and had a really good yarn Sunday. Your face got so red just thinking about that.
Oh God,
yeah, in the middle of the ocean. Yeah, we had like a glass flat. So
That's like hands down like one of my worst fears. Like it makes me wonder, like, did I die like that in a past life? Like I am terrified. Like I've always loved the idea of the ocean. Like I think it's so beautiful and like terrifying, but like majestic and like such an amazing force. But like the idea of something just whoop coming up and just going down and like just dragging you under is
which
absolutely
happens.
terrifying.
It happens.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like we've talked
Just
about
stepped on a
this.
sea urchin
Like,
once and that sucked. But
it's like I get nervous about my dog swimming in the bay because of like seals and shit. They could just come up and just fuck up his day. Not even eat him, but just be like chomp chomp.
Well, that's the thing about sharks is that they don't like the way we taste because we're polluted and we eat garbage all day long, so we taste like shit. So they're just like, oh, what's that floating up there? Think I'll take a little nibble and see. Bah, human. But the nibble is your whole fucking torso and tit.
Yeah, or your left arm. Like what's that? Like Brittany,
the homegirl
like
who can surf still.
Bethany something. I don't know. She's so cute. She has like 3 kids now. Like
good for her. Bring more children into this terrible hellscape. No offense, mother.
But
yeah. So for me, like this is one of those ones where even the mundane, boring explanations are still horrifying and dark. But there's also a lot of speculation that perhaps it was aliens that zapped them, and like since they were trying to learn about how humans navigate and stuff like that, that perhaps they would have taken the rudimentary navigation equipment with them as well to learn from it.
Well, they wouldn't have thought to take a captain's log. Like that would have been, you know. Yeah. Or, I mean, even like if they, you know, the crew had gotten off and been on the lifeboat, they could have just
scooped up that lifeboat,
like, you know, like came over.
Yeah, they're like, oh no, look at these polar creatures. Perhaps we should we, Dad, do you think, can we keep them?
You sound like Coneheads.
No. I'm going to confess something here.
Have you never seen the Coneheads? Oh man,
never seen. No,
you gotta watch the Coneheads, even if it's just to like watch like the sex scene, like or the sex.
No,
scene.
I have seen it. I've seen that.
They're so funny and awful. Also, it's Chris Farley. Like Chris Farley.
I know. And it's what's her face from Third Rock from the Sun, and isn't it Dan Aykroyd?
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd's in it. And then also, oh gosh. Well, there's another gal on it. The mom, I'm blanking on her name. She's hilarious, amazing comedian. She is also in Third Rock. I think that's.
I literally just said those words.
Third Rock from the Sun.
Jane Curtin.
But like, what's her name?
I just said Jane Curtin, and I'm 90%. I'm looking.
She used to be on SNL.
Yeah.
Like, but
yeah,
she's
Jane Curtin.
It's hilarious.
It's Jane Curtin. I'm right.
You are right.
Let the record show. Hannah Jane is correct.
Just that was bad. Just I wish I had a gavel. Just
yeah, we're just yeah. There is some speculation that outside of just pulling it right back into the content that we're supposed to be talking about here.
The Kraken.
Well, the Kraken, there's no. Unfortunately, we have yet to see the Kraken like on record, so that's a big bummer. But I personally believe in the Kraken. There's some weird shit out on the sea.
We literally understand space better than we understand our oceans, like the deep ocean, which means you don't know what the fuck's down there.
That's because they got down there and saw those fucking anglerfish things that like open their mouth with like the crazy teeth that were glowing, and they're like, you know what would be dope? The stars. Yeah. Let's get the fuck out of here.
I mean, the fact that
I don't blame them.
There's like great white sharks that can live to like 300 to 700 years, like something crazy, like deep.
Have you ever seen that picture of the old shark who's just like angry about her life?
And like their eyes just get like totally like glazed over and have like worms and shit in them. Like they're totally blind.
That sounds like an amazing experience, a lived experience. Just let yourself die, shark. Stop swimming.
But they eat. So what happens is like those sharks live for so long because they're like way down in the dark, and like all the carcasses just fall, and they're like nom carcasses. They're like goblin sharks, but I know there's actually goblin sharks. Like that's a name of a shark. That might be their names.
Wait, there's a goblin shark?
Yeah, hang on.
I'm taking a note right now to look that up because that sounds like fun.
Goblin shark.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
feel
dude, that's
like
a real thing. So, oh yeah,
really,
these
really
look like
trying to
goblins.
whip it back in.
So I don't know if you can see,
Oh,
but that's
yeah, with their
literally
weird noses. Do
a goblin shark.
you think the goblin sharks got everybody off the Mary Celeste with those big weird noses? That were just like,
Maybe. But like I think those are like deep in the ocean, but like the ones that live for a really long time, I'm talking about like great whites. Like there's like great whites that live for like 300 years or something.
oh my God.
Like
I don't have
there's
like
a
any
thing that's like
real
there's sharks that are older than America, you know. So
gross.
yeah, gross indeed.
I don't have any real problem with sharks. I did like the shark swim thing one time, and I'm like, they're beautiful. Wow. But I also have a deep respect for everything in the ocean. Because the ocean will fucking sneak up on you and get you.
Yeah.
Just like what, like, I honestly feel like we can speculate all the live long day about the aliens, the pirate mutiny that could have happened, because there's
cannibal
like
pirates.
cool cannibal pirates. Possible, probably not. Because if there were cannibal pirates, why didn't they take any of the food and water?
Because they were cannibals. They only wanted the people for their num num meat.
You're still gonna want to put some fucking taters in your people stew.
Do you though? Like, what if you're just like
yeah,
carnivore? Like it's just like no potatoes.
So you're saying it's like the Hills Have Eyes family floating around on the ocean.
Yeah,
they
like
have the wherewithal to float the ocean.
Yeah, like they don't want like your water or your denatured alcohol or anything. They just want to eat people. Like they're just there for the snacks. So, and I mean, so here's the thing. Let's dive deep into cannibal pirates. Just bear with me for a second. So they got off course. So they weren't where they were supposed to be, drifting in the sea, right? They thought they were somewhere they weren't. So maybe they were in cannibal pirate territory. Cannibal pirates. Cannibal, like maybe there's like just some like a bunch of little Italians that are just like, oh,
careful, you can't talk shit about Italians anymore.
The flesh of humans, it's better than pig. just supposedly it tastes the same.
Alone, pig. Yeah, man. I was gonna bring that up, and you like taters and a ham. Like, if you're making a ham roast, you want some veggies in there.
Maybe it's like Sweeney Todd on the high seas, like just meat.
They were like, "Oh my God, here comes a ship barber." Look at that, waving us down. You're right. I could use a trim.
You want to get real dark, the baby. I mean, that's like veal.
I was gonna say that earlier, but since you're a mother, I was not gonna bring up the fact that your tiny, chubby child legs would be like
the fact that my child is almost the same age as like the child who was lost at sea. So
yeah, I was gonna leave that out, but thanks for bringing it up yourself.
You're welcome.
Shit and Fan come together, we'll just have some Bonnie steaks.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go ahead and throw out there. Don't look up Albert Fish. Don't do it.
What?
Don't look up Albert Fish.
I'm gonna like literally have to now. You can't tell me to not look something up because I definitely will look it up.
He was a cannibal who ate children.
Oh, Albert Fish. Yes.
Oh, Albert Fish. What did I say?
Albert Fish. I don't know what you said. But that's what connected.
Arthur Fish? Something like that. Yeah.
Like that. But yes, Albert Fish.
Their own name.
Yes, but I thought he only liked little boys. No. Oh, woof. But yes, no, I do remember that Kimmy, our friend Kimmy, actually.
Oh yeah, I know.
We should talk to her about that.
Oh yeah, we need to get Kimmy on this shit.
Yeah, she would. She'd be able to go into depth on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I feel like we've gone into depth pretty good about the Mary Celeste here. Like, honestly, this is one of those weird mysteries where I think that the rational explanation is just gut-wrenchingly tragic.
Yeah, it's like almost scarier than aliens, because aliens would feel like a bit of like a savior in that situation, which is like at least they weren't justify it that way. Yeah, is that like that's a little bit lighter than just
I would rather have them abducted by aliens or eaten by the Kraken or murdered by pirates than left adrift to die and float away and not like
I mean, they didn't even have
10 souls. Like, no, baby, nobody had sunscreen then.
I know, but that's what I'm saying, right? Like you, like, you know, like you see, like they get like so sunburnt and like
trapped
their lips
and like
get all like gross.
Yeah,
like horror story. They look like little zombies, like people adrift at
sea. You get desiccated. when your liquids like all dry up inside of you.
Yeah.
And then you start drinking the blood of the infant. Just throwing it out there.
I threw out Cannibal Pirates, so like I'm just
saying the crew probably ate that baby. And we just lost 4 of our 30 viewers because of that.
Yeah. Probably because we just keep bringing it back up.
Because we just won't let it drop. It's just child cannibalism is what we would love to discuss here today. But yeah, I think that's kind of, I feel comfortable wrapping up on our conversation on the Mary Celeste. How about you? Is there anything else you wanted to bring up?
So just like tragic ending, regardless like what happened to the mystery of them. Like I know
massive bummer.
They did, I can't remember what university did a study too, where they talked about like they try to recreate like the fumes or explosion of like the couple barrels. So they think that that was pretty likely. So it was one of like the 2 scenarios, right? So something smelled the denatured alcohol or something happened that made them jump ship essentially.
I mean, there's no reason why it couldn't have been both of those scenarios happening at once. Because like I said, there was that sea quake. So that could have like rumbled some shit loose, you know, and they had time to like tidy up the ship, because as somebody who's been on a ship, when shit gets out of its place, when it's no longer secure for sea, your first order of business is to re-secure everything for sea.
Yeah.
So they re-secure for sea, and then they realize, holy God, we've taken on a bunch of water, and I smell alcohol. Do you smell that shit? It's gonna blow. Get off.
Yeah.
And then drift away into
to be eaten.
Desolate.
So
yeah, hopefully.
I mean, that seems like a much
it's merciful at that point. At least it's quick.
Yeah, right?
It's not like a slow drift away and then Tom dies. You know, he's one of the crew members. Blacksmith's Ted's there. He wanted to try his hand at the sea, and that was a mistake.
Blacksmith Ted, gotta bring it back for every episode. It needs to be like
I legit forgot about it until just now, and I was like, bring up Blacksmith Ted. But like they're slowly dying on the life raft, and they're just like, bite into his flesh now.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I just imagine Blacksmith Ted as like John Hamm. Like I don't know why, but like that's
pretty perfect. I've been picturing Uhtred, son of Uhtred from The Last Kingdom, because he's it's a good show. It's my recommendation for this week is watch. Nick and I call the show Uhtred, son of Uhtred, because he says it like 80 times every episode, and it's like you have to drink. I am Uhtred, son of Uhtred, born a Saxon but raised by Danes. It said that, some good shit. But yeah, thanks for tuning in with us this week on Tin Hat Time.
Yes, send us your stories though.
Yeah, for real.
Email us
guys
your stories, or put them in our comments or something on Instagram. I don't know, but like send us, preferably email us your stories at tinhattimepodcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
So
follow us on Instagram at Tin Hat Time Podcast
and TikTok at Tin Hat Time. So.
And maybe one day we'll put content on that TikTok. I've publicly called you out.
Maybe one day we'll talk about
when we figure out how to edit things.
Yeah, I'll get there. Eventually.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck personally. I'm not 12. I don't give a shit about TikTok.
So great.
I'm on the Instagram with the rest of the middle millennials.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been good. I'm excited for. We might be switching up our format a little bit next week on our 1 month episode, trying to bring a little bit of new things to the table. We are just really begging for you to interact with us online.
Yeah, please, but really send us your spooky stories, whatever your favorite conspiracy theory is, like something. We'd love to start being able to read listener mail.
That's a quick shout out to Heather Joy for being like one of our first commenters and a major listener, to Isabel for being a big listener, loving all our shit. Thanks, Honesty, and thanks, Kat, for seeing the views, and we appreciate that you're here. We said your names, now you have to do stuff.
Yeah, you did, because you have more friends than me. So
well, you don't have any friends, it's fine.
No, just Kelly.
Me, you, Kelly. You're your own friend.
Yeah. So
anyway, on that bummer note.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us for Tin Hat Time. New episodes every Wednesday. And yeah, we'll see you next Wednesday for more conspiracy theories and hopefully less Bummersville.
Yeah, this one
That's
was
real life Bummersville.
Bummersville. Population crew of the Mary Celeste.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess eventually we'll figure out a sign off.
Yeah. So, okay.
Bye.
Bye.